What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Jiu-Jitsu Radio. I'm here with my co-host, Gorilla Boy, BJJ.
JJR.
That looks like two L's. You got to flip it.
What about?
There you go. Now you're getting
JJ Radio.
I can't do it. I'm not throwing up gang signs. Anyway, thanks again for joining us. Thanks again for supporting the podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share the podcast with your friends. Any way you are listening to it, we're there, and we appreciate your support. Also, don't forget to check out the website, jiu-jitsuradio.com. You can pick up some of our gear, including the latest shirts that I've been working on. What?
Not you can, you should.
You should.
You should.
I'm not giving you the option. Like he said, I'm not giving you the option.
Check
out jiu-jitsuradio.com. Follow Shawn at Gorilla Boy BJJ. Follow me at Sonder Marketing. But most of all, don't forget to check out our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Chokaloha. Check out chokaloha.com. Use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu Radio to get 20% off your entire order. Doesn't matter if it's brand new, just literally got released. You can pick up a rash guard, spats, patches, you name it, they got it, and you get it at a discount. Just put the promo code Jiu-Jitsu Radio at the checkout. It is still getting shipped. So don't forget that you should support the community by supporting these sponsors. Also, don't forget, best way to keep yourself clean, healthy, and avoid that ER room is by just using soap and water. Super simple. Nothing too crazy. And you can get yours at jiu-jitsusoapco.com. Use the promo code JJRadio to get 10% off your entire order. You might be able to even pick this up pretty soon.
Oh, what's that?
Don't worry about it, but you'll find out soon enough. Just go over to jiu-jitsusoapco.com. Use the promo code JJRadio. Keep an eye out for all the latest drops. Get yourself a discount with that promo code at checkout. You'll be glad you did, and you can thank us later when you're feeling all sexy in the shower. You're welcome. Also, don't forget, last but definitely never least, GiraffeChoke.com is the place where you can pick up some of the coolest gear from Giraffe Choke. And when you use our promo code JJ you'll get 25% off orders of $99 or more with free shipping. So it's kind of like almost free. So it's like 30% free. Because if you include shipping, that's like 30% free. You can pick yours up at GiraffeChoke.com. You can snag yourself up a Superman punch hat or shirt. My favorite is actually the heel hooker now. I've been rocking my heel hooker hat a lot more than usual. So you can get yours too. Shipping still going on. Get yours. Now, we got someone really special on the podcast today. Someone that I've been wanting to get on here since day one. Hands down, one of the best grappling coaches of all time.
On the planet.
On the planet, and definitely at all time.
And maybe even the universe. I'll even go far as to say he's probably one of the best grappling coaches in the entire known universe.
Facts.
Fight me.
Facts.
Fight me.
I dare you. I dare you to fight him more than anything. He not only has been the head coach for MMA teams like the Black Zillions, Extreme Couture, and Alliance MMA. He is a Navy vet. He is an Air Marshal vet. He is the Godfather of Filth. The ground marshal himself, Coach Neil Melanson. Big round of applause.
Yay.
You can't
Here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence. And nobody can hang with my stuff.
Get stealing, woo, wheeling, dealing, limousine right, jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, the Godfather of Filth, the ground marshal and Air Marshal himself, Neil Melanson. Coach, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So
that was quite an introduction.
Oh, trust me. You wait till you hear the other one. I already have it all written out. So wait till
I have a better one.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, hey,
what's up, Neil? I call him the Ronnie Lott of grappling.
Ronnie Lott. Oh, yeah.
You guys, I don't know, Alex. I don't know if you understand this, but Ronnie Lott during the 1980s almost lost his pinky in order. Well, no, he damaged his pinky.
You don't even know.
Yes, I do. he lost his pinky, or he damaged his pinky. The doctor said, "Hey, we can fix this, and you'll be out for the next 2 months," and he would miss the playoffs, or we can just amputate it. And he goes, "Take it." Neil has done something similar, just not with a finger, just with a different digit.
So we got to get that story right out. Let's get it out of the gate. You want the story right out of the gate? Because I know that's one of the things that usually people like just automatically like just show or say this story. It's like, how badass is this guy? That badass. So let's get it out of the way. Can you give us what happened and get the actual story?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't – I never thought people would think such a big deal of this. It's funny that people always bring this up. I wasn't thinking this at all. I was just trying to be practical. This was a ways ago. I was trained Randy at Extreme Couture. And there was a series of fighters I was working with. I think at the time it was Randy and Vitor had camps. I coming up, or they were in the middle of their camps. I can't remember now. But I was very busy. But I'd also teach regular classes, make a few bucks, and I roll around with the students, and I always kind of play around with them. And this one student, I had him in like a straight ankle, but I wasn't even cranking it. I was just kind of holding it just to let him work. And he freaked out, and I don't know what he was thinking, but he grabbed my big toe. He grabbed my toe next to my big toe, and he just snapped it over my big toe.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it was kind of
that's such a weird defense.
I don't know what he was thinking, and I had broken that toe a couple of times, so it was probably compromised a little bit. And I just kind of like then finished the lock and stood up and popped my toe back, and I said, "Hey man, you can't do that." And he was freaked out. And I said, "Yeah, we don't do small digits. I don't know where you got that idea," because he was rolling like he could grapple. So I was very confused. And I never saw him again, but I didn't really hate on him for it. It was just kind of one of those weird things. I was just like, I don't know what made you think of doing that. But I just tried to straighten it the best I could and taped it up like normal. I just continued with the camps and the things I had to get done. I had people counting on me. So some time went by, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so, and I finally got a break between camps and work that I could try to get it fixed, because it was hurting me because it was overlapping my big toe like that. So every time I couldn't shoot like off my lead leg very well. It was just a pain in the ass. I went to a doctor to try to get it corrected, but I guess it was shattered through the joint, and they were going to have to put pins in it, and it was going to be a big procedure, and I couldn't have any contact with that toe for 6 months to a year. Otherwise it'd be really easy to break. And I'm like, that's not going to work. I got camps coming up. I got people counting on me. So I elected to remove it. And I was able to get back on the mat. I think it was 2.5 weeks. I just had to protect it. I was just being really careful, not that they wouldn't grab it. But I wasn't wrestling, but I could grapple. And then I could continue with the camps. And then eventually, it got less sensitive and I could just be normal again. But it's still kind of weird because my big toe gets hooked in shorts sometimes. And when I shoot off my lead leg, my toe is really split, because that gap's there. Because I don't like wearing shoes, because MMA, we don't wear shoes. And yeah, I've kind of broken the toes next to it now. I think Stefan Struve stepped back when I was in Florida. He ended up healing me and broke 2 toes next to that gap. So my whole foot there is just, I got those straight. So I didn't have to, mess with them. But yeah, my feet are a little jacked up.
So what was the doctor's reaction when you were like, well, can we just fucking cut it off?
He said no. I was a little more intense back then. I was younger. So I pretty much told him, I said, well, if you don't remove it, I'm going to cut it off. And I just thought, I can do it. I can do it, And he was like, well, don't do that because you'll probably get infected. And he's like, well, I'm going to make you wait and think about it for 2 weeks or like a week. And I was like, I don't need to think about it. It's my idea. And clearly I've already put some thought into it. And then I came back in a week, and then he's like, you still want to do it? And I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, I'll remove it, but I need you to sign some forms. And then it became like a joke. Randy was like, get the toe, try to get the toe. He wanted to hang it up in his office and like put a plaque on it. So we were trying to get the toe, but I guess there's some rules about it. Like, unless I had like a certain excuse via a religion or something where I needed to be buried with all my parts. I have no idea, but it was going to be a hassle. And I was like, man, I don't really care. It's more like a gimmick. And then, like, you know, some of my students were bringing me like those Halloween toes and leaving them in my locker. And, you know, Randy wanted to dangle one above his office so it hit you in the head when you walked in. And yeah, it was kind of like a little running joke for a little while, and then it faded.
Well, I mean,
ESPN was actually filming some other athlete, and I happened to come in there. I was coaching them, and I had a cane, and my foot was wrapped up, and they asked me, I think it was Brett Okamoto, is that his name?
Yeah.
He saw it, and he asked me, and then he asked permission to write about it, and then it's kind of took off from there, I guess.
So, I mean, on the bright side of thing, at least it's not one of those things where that ended up being your nickname, like the toe guy. I mean, you got enough couple of nicknames.
Guys were trying. I think Mitrione was trying to push Nine-Toed Neil. You know, it does have a jingle, so I really thought that was going to stick, but I didn't want it to. It's like, I don't want everybody – I just don't want to be known for that, you know. It wasn't
it's kind of a legend, though. It's kind of one of those MMA legend kind of things. Like,
it's like how hardcore are you about this life? Like, really? It's like, because I know a guy that like made it happen. So would you be willing to do that? Most guys are going to say no.
But here's the best part is you weren't even fighting. You're coaching.
Yeah.
That's the level of commitment that you have to this.
Well, I was a training partner, so like I did a lot of all the live groundwork for these guys, and I would wrestle with them and do some MMA with them because my striking wasn't nearly on par, you know. And most of them protected me a little bit, but on the ground I could bang because I could feel it. And I used to spar, so they counted on me. And when you had Randy and stuff, not a lot of guys like going with Randy. You know, he's a stud and he's a bigger guy, and he had trouble finding training partners as well. So I was around the same weight. I was a little smaller back then. I was trying to keep my weight down for him. And so we would do hard rounds together. So it's like I had more of a purpose than educating. They were using my body as well. And I can be a good partner being a coach. You know, I don't have that ego. I don't have a fight coming up. I don't have to worry about my psyche. You know, so I can play possum. I can take some lumps for them, build up their confidence. You know, guys will tell you, like Dom Cruz, I think Mike Chandler during our practices would choke me out like 15 times a practice just because I required him not to pause and to fully commit. And to fully commit, yeah, sometimes I go to sleep before I can nap. So, you know, when you're drilling, that stuff happens, and you just, I don't know, I'm just in it to win it, I guess.
One thing I've always wondered is how come you haven't really gotten into like any of the super fights or the grappling tournaments or things like that? I mean, everybody knows who you are. They know your skill level, but was this more of like a personal decision?
Well, I was competing back when I first started for the first few years. And then, but I was also an Air Marshal, so I was traveling a lot, so I couldn't compete a lot. But I was competing. I did some shoot matches and things like that, small time stuff, you know.
But you wouldn't do one now?
I would totally do one now. The big thing is I got to make sure I'm healthy. And that seems to be a struggle for me these days. And it's always been a bit of a struggle because I have Behçet's disease, and it's a lot like lupus, and it causes a lot of problems. That's why I'm blind in one eye and deaf in one ear. I was blind both eyes for a little while. So I still kind of live under that weight that my disease could really mess me up. And I take the medicine I take to control the disease weakens my immune system. So when I'm in the gym, I get sick a lot with colds and flus. And so I never really feel that good. So when I'm training and doing this stuff, I'm kind of gutting through it for the guys, and I'm doing it because I love it. But after I'm done coaching and I'm exhausted, I can't add more to my schedule.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a sideline coach. And maybe if I was a sideline coach and I was able to adjust that, but my passion wasn't really about, I don't have like an ego like that, you know. I like competing because I like to just roll. And I don't care where it is. I only want to compete now just for my friends and fans, you know. I don't really care about it. I don't care. I don't ever have dreams of carrying a belt or anything. That was never, you know, my thing. As I think for me is once I got sick and realized that I was never going to fight, that I was never going to have like a career like this. And back then, jiu-jitsu guys didn't make money. You know, when I was like, you didn't do jiu-jitsu unless you were going to go into MMA if you wanted to make money. You know, jiu-jitsu is it's not an easy sport for spectators that don't know the sport to understand, but MMA is. So that's where you go. So it seemed like you go jiu-jitsu and then you eventually go MMA. So I just kind of was already, I was a higher stand grappler. So we did grappling and MMA. So it seemed like, you know, all the guys were going MMA. So I thought the business was MMA. I didn't really, jiu-jitsu was like my passion and the grappling game was my passion, but it wasn't my job. My job was to train guys for fights. So I really wasn't in that world. I didn't take it serious. It wasn't until I think recently when I started doing DVDs that I was like starting to pay attention more to the grappling world. And I was like, what? Guys are making money doing this? Like, I know it sounds stupid for guys that just do jiu-jitsu, but I'm just wasn't in that world. Like I was training with jiu-jitsu guys, rolling with black belts, training with wrestlers, and I was just trying to get as good as I can and then learn it, understand it, and then dictate it and educate with it. You know, that's a process. And that was my passion. And then later on, I'm hearing like, oh yeah, he just bought a house. He's doing all this. I'm like, good for fucking him, man. How is he doing this? You know,
Right.
I had no idea guys are making decent money now. And it's just this big fan base. And I hear guys have arguments about dudes that are jiu-jitsu, like, oh, this guy's better. And I was like, when I first came into the deal, it wasn't like that. I mean, maybe it was, and I was just too much in the MMA side, but yeah, because I'm not a gi guy. You know, I'm not from that world.
No,
I'm from a strict grappling world.
It just really started coming up I would say over the last 4 years, that no-gi, like as a business, you know, I think it all started with the Eddie Bravo, the Eddie Bravo Invitational. That started getting a lot of eyes on no-gi, and it started blowing up, and people started to see they could make money. Well, promoters started seeing they could make money putting on grappling events, which nobody really thought they could do other than tournaments, I think.
Well, everyone I saw fail, like Metamorphs, I was like, all right, cool. This might be fun to do. I can get a match with one guy. I don't have to do some crazy tournament. I mean, I'm banged up. I'll take a match. Yeah. Then I talked to the guy that owned the thing, and he was great down. He's the guy that owns 540. I don't know if you know what that is. That's
in Cali.
A sweet grappling place, super nice. And
is it Robert Zepp?
And guy's awesome. I'm thinking, man, this is great. And then I found out, he dumped some money into it, and then it was gone. And he's like, I'm not doing that again. I'm like, well, so much for that. Yeah. And plus, I was like, 20-minute matches. God, this is kind of boring to watch on some of them. I mean, I just kind of go for it. I don't know, but you know, I wasn't too worried about it.
What about like ADCC?
Well, that's another thing. That's another tournament bracket. I got to get in shape for that. I got a job.
Man, you've been a beast. Come on, man.
40 hours a week. Like, what do you think I'm doing here? It's like I'm in my mid-40s. You know, it would be crazy for me to go in there in a tournament and go with these animals. You know, back to back. I'll take a match. That's like
that's what I'm saying. I would definitely get you in there.
You know, you got Cyborg. And then you got Gordon, and then you got it's like, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna need tea time and a nap, you know. Like, I don't know what kind of athlete you think I am, but
Come
I
on.
am not
Listen,
in my prime. let
I
me
used to
tell you.
sit there and watch you for hours in the Black Zillions camp when I was sitting there and taking all the photos and videos. I'm like, and funny enough, it's one of my favorite times coming up in grappling, and also in like one of my biggest regrets, like, is not being able to learn more from you directly when we were over at Jocko. But man, I would sit there and watch you like, he's fucking AJ up right now. Like, I mean, I'm sure somewhere I have footage and photos of you just like fucking these guys up, just coaching.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I'm supposed to, right? That's why they're coming at me.
Right.
But it's irrelevant. Like, here's my thing. You know, I was a dog trainer in the military, and I know that doesn't seem relevant, but I really learned operant and classical conditioning very well, because it's all dog training. There's all different types of learning. So you learn a little bit about psychology. And I started figuring things out. People will do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure. So when I move with an athlete, it's like I'm holding mitts. Like, I'm sticking him, and then I'm letting him work. And then I'm sticking him, and I'm letting him work. If he doesn't react intelligently, I get him. I sting him hard, and I go rough. So it leaves a dent in the mind, like, fuck, that sucked, sorry, language.
No,
And then I'll do that same setup, but I'll distract them first so they're not focused on it, so it disappears in their mind. And I'll rediscover that spot for them. And then when they respond correctly, I make mistakes on purpose. And then all of a sudden they get the win, they get the finish, they get the position, they land good shots on me. And now it's making it black and white in their head, and I'm not having to say anything.
Right.
So and when they learn like that, they know it because they're discovering it for themselves. But you have to do it a certain way, and you got to read your athlete really well. And the only way to do it is to be the body working with them. Right. So when I work with guys, I do a lot of feeder fish rounds just to see their confidence and moves, so they don't get in their head that they have to be defensive all the time. Because when they go with me, they get very defensive. Well, you're not competing against me in that fight. You're not for the guy, so what I'll do is I'll just back off and say, man, or I'll play his opponent and what I research on. And to do that, yeah, it takes some lumps sometimes. So sometimes it looks like I'm getting my ass kicked. Sometimes I'm kicking their ass, but I'm controlling the whole thing. I'm deciding what we're doing and how it's being done. I'm just a gritty kid, and I can take it. That's all.
So it's kind of like positive reinforcement through negative reinforcement.
It's just the same. It's just, I'm just using the all honesty of how the mind works. If people will always do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. And if you don't, if people don't agree with that, it's okay. But there's a lot of research that says otherwise. And all I did was fill in the gap. The thing is, though, it's very hard to teach someone to do that because they have to be crazy enough. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, they have to be crazy enough to be willing to put their body on the line a little bit. But so do mitt handlers. You talk to any coach that's been working mitts for a long period of time, their elbows are shot. Yeah. Their bodies are, they're toughing it out. So there's no really good way. My neck and shoulder, I need a hip replace or shoulder replace, and it's all because of letting guys drill on me. When I go hard, I protect myself, but not protecting myself to build the athlete's confidence, it wore me out. So that was the thing. I think if I had to go back, I probably would do a little less of that, because the toll on my body now in my 40s is way more than I expected.
It's like you became like the human punching bag just for them to improve.
Right, because it just kind of sucked a little. But I'm an ex-military guy. You just suck it up. You don't think much about it. No one else around you is going down like that, and then next thing you know, you start falling apart. But that's why I knew that I had a cap on how long I could play that style, and eventually, after the Black Zillions, I kind of ended that style of coaching because my body's just had enough. But I found other ways to kind of replicate it. It's just maybe the learning process, maybe not as fast as I was getting back then. I was getting quick results.
Right. What do you think any of your injuries may have played a role in the development of, like, I've been watching a lot of the stuff you've been doing with that special K guard.
Well,
And
it's called K. I just called it Special K,
Right.
for reference.
Well, thank God, because I've been calling it K-guard, but
Good marketing.
well, I've been calling it K-guard to my guys because I've been playing with it. Even like I saw you do it a couple months ago. I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I've always been nervous to reach under the leg while in guard, right? Like while having a full guard, because if they come down, but then I was like, wait a second, I have all my hips that I can press back. But do you think that the your injuries, the accumulation of injuries, kind of helped you develop that guard a little bit?
Well, I developed K for MMA, and it was, I'll never forget it. I was watching Dave Loiseau and Evan Tanner fight, and the whole fight, it looked like Tanner was all over him, just out grappling him, working him. And I don't remember which rounds really, but I remember there was a point that Tanner took Dave's back, and Dave had a little trick in MMA where he'd give his back, he would roll you to your back, and then he would have a good back mount escape from there, and then he basically spit and get in your guard, especially when he's slippery. And that's what he did to Evan. So all of a sudden he goes from, he puts Evan on his back, spins to get in his guard. He throws, I think, 2 elbows and the fight's over. And I was watching the way David was throwing his elbows. He was throwing them so powerfully from the driving from his feet that no hands up is going to block that kind of power. And then I was thinking to myself, because I was kind of a bottom-based player back then, because I still had to get better at my wrestling and judo at the time, So I was still developing that side. So I was looking at that, and I was like, man, if I go close guard there, I can't. That guy's going to kill me. And if I start teaching that to guys, that dude's going to kill them. I can't have that. So I need to protect this stuff. So, but when you go with, the problem is the rules make the sport, right? So if you go to, like, say, a Z or side scissor, whatever you want to call it, yeah, you can protect yourself. The problem is your athlete on top can always leave. He can always go backwards. He can always escape, stand, run by you. He can kick your legs. He can hover over you and then punch you. Or he can force you to stand up, and if he's a better striker, then he's gotten a chance, right? So you kind of have to, if something puts me on my back in a fight, I have to do something. Either reverse him, go to a snap down, submit him, something. Because if I just escape and get up, the judges see whatever he did to me and imposed his will on me, and I escape. But that still tick mark is in the judge's eyes. If I turn his offense and then flip it on him and say I snap him down, and then I get to a front headlock, like my snap guard concept, turn the corner, take your back. Now, whatever you did to me is kind of erased because I'm the dominant aggressor now. You see how it works? It's just kind of like you show up at domestic violence. I'm ex-law enforcement, so my mind thinks different. The girl's beating the crap out of her boyfriend, hits him a bunch of times. He hits her once, breaks her fucking nose, teeth come out. She started it. She was attacking me, but you were the dominant aggressor. You're going to jail. You see how it works? And that's kind of the thing in a round. It's very similar in that aspect. So I had to come up with something. And the K control creates an anchor, and it's an off-balancing based system. So it's an open guard based system. So what happens with the leg hook is that if you try to run, I have options. So if you try to stand up out, yeah, I can go leg locks, but I have a lot of moves where I just roll out into a sweep single. I got a lot of weird, funky rolls from K control that I show a couple on the DVD. I'm going to do a part 2 probably because there's a lot you can do from K. You can attack the entire body. But it allows you now to not get hit because you're kind of in this angle. So if they drive, they're actually driving into a pendulum sweep, which is going to force an off-balancement. If he's fighting his balance, he cannot fight me. He can't hit me because he's dealing with a problem, his balance. And while he's dealing with that problem, now I can attack him. So I give him 2 things to do. He's got to correct his balance. Then he's got to defend what I'm doing. I only have to attack. So so we're 2-1, I'm going to win.
Right.
So he's got more steps. And I can push him away. I can sweep him backwards. I can sweep him to the right. I can sweep him to the left. I can go inverted if I need to. And I can attack, meaning submissions, the upper body. The more you try to punch me, the more K works to my advantage. K is actually harder in regular grappling because people can try to be very careful and stall. But if you use K correctly and your leg position is correct, you want to be jerky and violent with it you'll get them to hover and lean into very easily. It's just guys that when they learn K, you learn it in a stage. You learn it in stage. You learn the position. You learn the sweeps. You learn the attacks. That's great. That's the same as, say, I go to a gun range. You teach me how to shoot. I feel great. I'm shooting it perfect every time. Doesn't mean I can win a gunfight. Gunfight is totally different. There's tons of tactics. There's speed. There's movement. There's focusing on 2 different sight pictures. There's a lot going on on how to win a gunfight. So just because you can shoot doesn't mean you can win a gunfight.
Yeah.
So what you do is, okay, you learn K. You learn how to shoot. Now applying it, now you can use it in a gunfight. Meaning you can use it in a real fight. And that is the constant jerkingness, off balancing, movement, constantly messing with their balance, and then trading it off. Maybe I want to be K. I bait him to come down and try to beat my K. And then I put him in a trapping system, like an overhook or a shoulder pin. So I can easily switch my system. So it's a very aggressive, and the first way I call it K control is not because of the body position. All right. I called it K because when I first started getting this idea, highest stand played guard a little different. Whereas jiu-jitsu guys play a lot of high-low concepts, meaning I go for the arm bar or triangle. He starts to rip out, or he starts to posture and stand up. Then I go to the leg lock. I'm attacking the upper body to lower body. I'm attacking high to low. Highest stand was a leg lock based gym. So they would go low to high. So when you're on your knees, they go for that leg lock because they can get a deep grip, right? So if you try to run, you're done. They already had a deep grip. But if you drop your base now to try to sprawl or defeat that leg lock, then they switch high and they go for triangles and arm bars. It was a totally different concept that I saw with the rest of jiu-jitsu world back then. So that's kind of what Carl would do. He would jack you off balance. He would go deep looking for a leg, but then he would slap up a triangle. And the whole time it's very confusing, and he always has a hard angle. So it's hard to correct yourself because you got to take away that angle to fight him intelligently. So basically he has a flank, right? So there's a lot going on. And I watched Carl fight St. Pierre a long time ago. Granted, St. Pierre won, but Carl put him in a lot of trouble. And Carl was just, straight technician. He was all talent. He was not like he was training. Carl had like body fat. You know, he's out there. He's smoking cigarettes before a fight. Carl's gangster. Yeah. He's not like the rest of the fighters, okay? He's a gangster. All right? So I saw what he was doing, and I was like, man, he's really close to making this sick. But he's not that kind of mind, you know? He's just an athlete, you know? So I'm more of a guy that can organize and make systems very well. I don't know why. It's just something I've been good at. So what I did is I took it. I started building rules and fundamentals. Then I built systems. And I just spent a lot of time on it until it was fully developed. And I saw the little differences. If my hips were on the ground in K, I had problems. If my hips were off the ground K, I was super effective. I just started creating notes. And luckily for me, I had friends that were awesome training partners that just let me practice. And I would tell them, hey, I think you can beat it by doing this. Try doing that. Or, hey, try to stall me this time. Hey, this time try to run. This time try to fight me. This time try to control this. This time try to control that. And then I was figuring it out. And I was like, okay. And then you do more research. I started studying spider guard. Let's see what they do. Let's see how they move. Let's see cross guard. Let's see how they do. Let's see how they move. I started studying with them. Go training with black belts and see how they work stuff. I figured out some good leg drills from them, some good wrist control drills. Then I started training more Greco guys. Greco's made my hand fighting through the roof. So how can Greco make my hand fighting better? Well, they're the best hand fighters I've ever fucking seen in my life. They're amazing. That's all they do is hand fight. So I started learning a lot from Greco guys. And I just started putting it all together, and I make this system, you know. And now it's always been one of my most dangerous systems because I'm extremely fast with it for a big guy, and you're constantly off balance. If you're constantly off balance, you cannot fight me intelligently.
It also makes sense, especially with your type of grappling. If you're attacking the lower body, the only way they can adjust their balance is putting their head in the way, which just sets them up for anything else that you can do.
Well, sometimes I bait them. Like I'll go K and make mistakes on purpose. So they want to come down, they stuff my knee and try to sprawl out, which would work. However, all I do is switch my system and go to my shoulder pin or the Williams guard, some people call it, or whatever you want to call it, like overhooks or whatever trap, rubber guard if you're that guy. So you can switch your system by forcing them to counter your other system. So now, and that's what you always want to make sure is that I wanted to have a system that would work for MMA and grappling equally. And I noticed that a lot of guys, I have friends that are sick black belts in gi. And they're sick. But you take the gi off, you can tell they're based, their hands are strong. There's a lot of good qualities, but their grips are off. They're not grabbing, their body positions blow off. They're not used to the speed of the game. And I would see my purple belts just tear through them. But I'm sure if my purple belts threw a gi on, it would be a joke. They would just kill them, So it's like, I look at it as like BJJ is a sport. Grappling is another sport. And the sports have massive similarities, but they're not exactly the same. So just like people that I like to train gi, I think it helps me get ready for fights. Well, if that's in your head and you think it does, then it does because your mind relies on it. But honestly, I don't see how it does. I think you got to get used to being sweaty. I remember when I first started, I was an overhook guy. This is a decent story. I know I'm talking a while.
No, you're good. This is awesome.
But that's what it's for.
I wore a long sleeve rash guard all the time back then because I used to get folliculitis from the MAC because I was still trying to figure out my health condition. So I used to cover my skin, and I was an overhook guy, and I was awesome at it because it was just something. I was a tall guy. Guys were used to getting underneath me. I said, all right, instead of me trying to beat this, let me just smash to the counter first, and then I'll get around. So I was teaching this one fighter. I was just new as a coach for MMA, and I was showing him my overhook game, and I was showing it from the bottom. And he would take it to pro class and spar with other guys, and guys, sometimes they're shirtless. And he was like, man, I'm trying it, but guys are slipping out. I was like, slipping out? How are they slipping out? And I decided to take my rash guard off, and holy crap, was my technique garbage. Because guys with no shirts on, no shirt, skinny and like when we're all sweaty, I had to adjust everything. And then from that day on, I said, I'm never letting equipment change my technique ever again, ever again. And then what happened? I made all my technique better. I figured out a way to use the grip of my shorts and change the way I do overhooks by grabbing my bottom leg to get you to press your skin more against my shorts versus my chest. I started making all these adjustments that way because those shorts you can wear in a fight. Normal shorts that don't pass the knee, you wear them in a fight. If that's required equipment, then I will use that equipment to my advantage. That's why I always, as much as I like 10th Planet guys because they're very creative, and I like creativity, I think it's good. It can be bad as well because people get too creative. They pass up good submissions that are basic and high percentage to go for funky little ones because they want to be different, and that's okay if you're a hobbyist. But if you're an athlete, you got to look at it not like something unique. Look at it as a quirk because you're making more steps than necessary and you're disrespecting your opponent because most likely he's going to beat it. Focus on the big things. That was hammered into me because I was a creative guy. And every time I was trying to do too many steps, I got iced. All right. So that's the kind of thing. So anyway, getting back to 10th Planet, I'm rambling, is that they love to wear the gi pants and the long tights, and it helps their game tremendously. It helps the bottom game tremendously. And I remember thinking, I'm sure it does. In the hobbyist world and in competition, that's why jiu-jitsu grappling competition is kind of lame. They don't have standardized equipment. Guys can wear whatever they want. Yeah. It's kind of bizarre. Like guys are wearing leggings. It's like, I used to think, man, how much gear do you need to win? Yeah. Seriously. I remember Dean Lister back in 2003 wear a pair of shorts, probably a sign of booty shorts, and a girl would wear because that's all he could find that day. He didn't even have shorts. He had to borrow from a buddy. And he goes out there and he submits just about everybody in the absolute, all but Peta Pano, I think. What the hell? That's a sick fucking black belt, right? That guy just, and I'm thinking, granted, not all of us can grapple like Dean. He was a real special kid. But, he is a special kid. I didn't mean past him. He just not competing like he was. But I think, well, shouldn't that be something to pay attention to? There's technique that doesn't require equipment. Let's not wear equipment because, like me, the equipment actually handicapped me because I required it. And as soon as I took that equipment off, I had to change so much about my game because the game was too slippery. I had to say, okay, I had to create a percentage based on submissions and when do I scramble? And if I stay here too long and he gets out, I got to scramble before he scrambles, because if he gets up before me, he's going to be able to hit me before I can hit him, and that could knock me out. So there's a lot of things thinking about, when you're coming up with techniques. You don't want to be responsible for leading a fighter down the wrong path.
Right.
So before you get to your point,
sorry.
I wish 10 Planet guys, and maybe they do this because I'm not in their world. Maybe they do this. So I should be very careful here. I think if they just wore plain shorts, no shirt, no nothing, they would modify their system, and it would be better for MMA. It would work even better, and they would become better grapplers. But I just don't like how they wear equipment. I mean, I understand hobbyists, they don't want to protect their skin, but you're a hobbyist, you can do whatever you want. You're not trying to make a career of it, you're just having fun. And that's fine, because the gym doesn't count. Whatever you do in the gym is just training. You shouldn't be ever afraid to lose in the gym. People have egos in the gym. Just got to let that go. Competition is where the money is. When money's on the line, you want to be your best. So I just wish they would make those adjustments, because I think they would have more people taking to their style, and they would adjust their style and work better for MMA, and it would be a good standardized system for grappling. Maybe they do it. I don't know. Maybe they're just a lot of them are hobbyists and they're just having fun, and that's cool as hell. But they have some unique stuff, and I'd like to see if it really stands up when things are slippery. Maybe it does. I've seen some badass dudes, and maybe it doesn't, but I do see the benefit of wearing that equipment for the bottom guy. And like I said, if you don't wear it in fighting, what are we doing? You're doing a little modified sport that doesn't really, it's not your actual sport, Right. So I'm not knocking them. That's the only thing that frustrates me about people that wear a lot of equipment, is that if you wear that, it's, to me, it just doesn't feel real.
So do you think that's more coming from your military background and understanding that it has to be able to work at the worst possible time for you and have to work in a self-defense thing? You're not always going to be able to have if someone breaks into your house, you're not going to be hold on, let me get my rash guard on. You're going to have to go. You're going to be in those situations. So you look at it from the self-defense aspect as well.
Well, for me, I would have a tough time accepting the fact that I would need equipment to win. It's I understand, when you're a new hobbyist, you're looking for every edge in the gym, because the gym is everything. You're not thinking competition. You're just thinking, I need to survive. So it's okay to cut some mangles, but it's just my personal feeling. You should be able to win and do your technique and have a system that works when you're slippery as hell. And I know that guys want to use control-based stuff is great. It's hard to execute when you're slippery, but it can be done. But when you don't have physical control, you can control somebody through sequences. And that's what I focus on for MMA, because I can set you up where you're going to turn left, and I know you're going to turn left, and that's the only way you can turn is left. And when you turn left, you're going to have to post that hand on the mat. And when you post that hand on the mat, I'm going to grab your wrist. When I grab your wrist, this is going to happen. You're going to be on a low shoulder. I'm going to do this and that. So by me turning you with one step, I'm 5 moves ahead of you, because you don't have a choice.
Right.
I'm setting you up in sequences. So I'm controlling you by setting you down a path that I already know the outcome.
Is that kind of
physically forcing you there?
Is that just kind of from the catch wrestling, basic?
Gokor used to tell me when I first started, he was like, you want to be 5 moves ahead of yourself. You want to get up to 7. He's like, right now, just think 2, because I was learning at the time. And to me, that sounded crazy to have 5 moves ahead. I was like, how you get 5 moves ahead? You don't know what he's going to do. But now that I've been more experienced, I kind of see what he means. And most coaches do this. They have combinations. Fighters have combinations. I hit this pass and I go to this armbar, whatever. But a lot of times when that's happening, they're forcing a technique. They have control. I have control of them. I'm going here. I have control. I'm going there. Control is great, but what happens when you don't have control and you're in a scrambling situation? You can still have control, but you have control through sequences. And sometimes you got to give to get. Right. If I can't control you, I give you something that you'll want, but I can actually handle. You know,
like Caro did with like giving up his back to roll around.
Like you mean David?
David, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. That, I mean, like I said, I'm sure David didn't want his back taken, but it was his choice at that moment to give it up so he could do a technique that he felt confident he could do. And Dave's a great guy. And what later on, I always admired David striking inside the guard. So I followed David. I was like, man, how is this guy finishing fights with one elbow in the guard? Where I see other fights, guys are throwing like 10 elbows, 20 elbows, and the guy's not even cut. So I started studying David. I was like, man, this guy, why isn't anyone looking at this guy? He's got it figured out. And then I got to train with him at the Black Zillions, and I was really, I mean, he's a really nice, humble guy.
He's the nicest dude.
He's
ever.
so great, right? He doesn't want anything from anybody. And I asked him to show me some of his striking concepts inside the guard, and it was brilliant. He had brilliant combinations and fakes and how he did it. And I was like, man, he's got it all figured out. And I was thinking, man, no, he's like a hidden gem. And no, you know, like I even asked him about his striking against the cage. He showed me a lot of stuff. I was like, man, this guy's got a great mind for this. But, you know, he's just because, I don't know, he's up there in Canada doing his thing. But to me, I think he's a gem because of David Loiseau's striking in the guard, I developed K control. I also put together shoulder pin, which other people play. They call it something else. I didn't know it was called. Some people called it Williams guard until my book came out. Yeah. I was literally doing a seminar on the East Coast. They're like, yeah, we call it Williams guard. And like Shawn Williams? I had no idea. Like I said, I wasn't in that jiu-jitsu world. Yeah. I saw a guy do it, and I was like, I want to try that. And then I spent a lot of time on it so I could make it really high percentage. It's actually one of my best systems. That's awesome. But, you know.
He messed me up a couple of months ago. The Crow fucked me up pretty good a couple of months ago. I was joking around with it because I'm training with George at Excel, and he comes by all the time. Okay. So, like, we're joking around, and I was just sitting there, and he comes up, and he starts grabbing me. I'm like, you don't want any of this. You don't want any of this. And, yeah, that lasted all of about 5 seconds.
Dave's strong. People don't realize how strong he is.
He's so crazy.
Yeah, he's a strong kid. He's a nice guy, man. Him and George. George is a great guy. I got to work with George once, and I was just impressed on how great of a freaking student he was. He was just a great student. For a guy so accomplished, you said Randy. Randy was this accomplished guy, and I'm working with him, and he was just an amazing student. I was like, man, I wish, like, that is the key. Like, he just knew he asked good questions. He was willing to work, patient. He wanted to hear all the whys, because when I look at a technique, most people just focus on how. If you're a beginner, you think how, because you're just trying to figure out how to do it. But the reality is like Nietzsche said, and give anyone a why, and they'll figure out a how, or something similar to that. I don't have it memorized, but if you have a why to do something, you'll figure out how to do it. So being having a law enforcement background, I always think who, where, why, and how. And I think of that when I'm looking at a technique. I see a guy pull I remember one time, Caro, this is a funny story. I was at highest stand, and I got really good at triangles because they made me, basically. And I was submitting everybody in the gym with triangles. And I was feeling good about it, but I still had a long way to go. And I turned to Caro. I'm like, man, I'm getting good at this. And I just remember the look on his face when he said, good. He was like, Jacques Ray's good. Are you him? I'm like, no. He's like, you're decent. Don't say good. And after that, I was like, you know what? I got to start. He's comparing me to the best in the world. I'm comparing me to the room. Right. And I need to compare myself to the best in the world. And then if I get cold, I'm good. I'll know where I'm at. And I remember that day, those coaches told me I was really good. And I was like, man, I'm fucking really good. Because I just remember, oh man, going home that day, you're fucking decent. I was like, all right.
I'll take it.
I'll be back tomorrow.
You know what's
more money. Keep training.
It comes down. What I've noticed a lot, man, is egos are they're the biggest killers of any like advancement or any progress is the egos. So like you were saying how these how George was a great student. George has no ego. George is one of the most laid back guys.
We still use tracking, by the way. We still use tracking, like like once in a while. It'll just sit there.
You guys caught it, huh?
Yeah, the second he'll show the technique, and I remember the first time he did it. Once he opened up the academy, he's like tracking, and like half the people didn't know what the hell he was talking about. They're like, "What are we?"
Who was that, George?
Yeah.
Oh, nice! You stole that from me.
Nice. Yeah. That's why I heard it. I was like, "Did he just say tracking?" And then so like you see people that didn't know about it, they're like, the fuck is he talking about? I'm like, just go with it. 1, 2, 3, guys.
Yeah, when he was down, I say that a lot to make sure you're following, you know, say it back. So that's also what it does is that you can read who's following you and you can read who's not, and gives people a chance to be like, hey, I don't got it, you know, rather than moving too fast. But I used that was a military thing to say that. But I remember I taught George my turnaway sequences, which is getting very popular in MMA. There's other guys that do it, like Khabib does a version of it. But I taught it to George, and he went back, and I guess he was teaching it, and he had forgot what I called it. And then I trained with this guy that was from his team, came out, and he was like, yeah, George, show me your flamingo. And I was like, what? Flamingo? He's like, yeah. And he showed it. I'm like, that's the turnaway sequence? I just call it a turnaway sequence. And he's like, oh, he didn't know what to call it. I called it flamenco or something like that. I was
like a flamenco dancer?
That's fucking hilarious.
Flamenco, that's different. But
So yeah,
George is great, man. I love that guy.
I don't want to change it too much, but I've been dying to ask you because when I saw it, I was like, fuck, I should have done that. Your custom made pieces, the Glock 17, and was it the 34 with the Edward Teach insignia on there?
Yeah, Glock 19X.
19X. Oh man, have you seen it, Shawn?
No.
Bro, you got to go on the Instagram.
Filthy. Yeah, I got them all pirated out, but yeah, I like to shoot. I do like to shoot a lot. And being an Air Marshal, we did a lot of pistol shooting, and I have a lot of friends out here that are ex-cops and some SWAT guys, and it's cool. They kind of push me, and I get a little better. Yeah. And I learn from them, and it's been fun. But I like these Glocks. I'm getting into it, and yeah, I got a couple of stores out here. They just take good care of us and just pimped it out, man. The grip is sick. The trigger,
I know. I saw it. I was like,
you don't feel it break. It's just beautiful. And it was my first time putting Trigicon dots on pistol, and I love it now. I thought it was a little weird at first, but now I love it because I'm almost blind, I don't see very well. So I'm like, wow, I could.
Listen, I got my vision, and those sights, man, they helped me out so much just to get that line of sight so quick, man.
Quick. It's great for combat shooting, man.
Yeah, but I've been working on it, getting more and more. I have actually one of the guys that trains with us. He's been taking me out. He teaches me. Like, man, I loved shooting before, but now that I actually feel like I know what I'm doing, I'm like getting completely obsessed.
This gun is perfect for you, Alex. This pink purple one.
It's like it'll fit in the palm of my hand. I can't even for sure. Like I had a 22. I've had a Glock 22 for a while, and now I just picked up a 17 a few weeks ago. So it's like just bits and pieces that I want to keep on adding onto it. So
I bought the Glock 43X, and I can put that in my pocket.
Yeah, it's
a little heater.
Yeah, it's like I can't.
I put a new trigger and spring kit in there, and it still breaks like shit because it's new. But yeah, it's a nice little gun. 9mm is such great cheap ammo. You can get 1,000 rounds out here for like $100, $120, something like that. Yeah. So it's like so cheap. I like the 9s. I just hollow point them all just in case,
Just make my own. Like it was like we had the drought too, man. There's like I've been waiting to purchase like another box of ammo for 3 weeks now. Just people bought everything up. Everybody bought everything up.
I'm lucky. I'm all stocked up. My M4 is all stocked. My shotgun. I'm all
just in case.
I'm ready. I might have to go find some toilet paper soon. Me and the boys have to strap up.
We're ready to go.
Start knocking down houses.
Listen, at this point, I'll trade you some toilet paper for some ammo. We can make that happen.
You can imagine that showing up at the door. Give me some shit tickets right fucking now.
Listen, I wouldn't doubt it.
Hey, look, it's easy. All you got to do is find the house with the Bernie sign that's still up front.
Oh, gosh.
And you just knock on the door.
Socialism. Gotta share, man.
Oh man.
Yeah, share it.
So
Share
I'm
it.
curious. I'm curious about like your Air Marshal days. I don't know how much you can actually talk about it, but how did you transition from the Navy into the Air Marshals?
I literally I got out of the military on one day, and the next day I was at the academy. I applied while I was on stop loss, meaning that you're not allowed to get out, basically. So my term of service was over, and I was still in because I was what I was doing was considered a necessity because we were starting at war, and I think the war is about to kick off, and they started. I actually had put in for the Air Marshals prior to the 9/11 attacks. So when that happened, I got a message saying, "Hey, just reapply under this this form." I got hired, but I couldn't get out of the military. So I had some experience with an admiral that I did some protection work with, and it got back. They were nice enough to call his office, and he was on leave, so he was basically on a little break. And he was nice enough to come in from break and sign the release to let me out because he said we need more Air Marshals than anything right now because we can't have another attack. So he let me out so I could go to Air Marshal, become an Air Marshal and a federal agent with them. And I did 5 years with them, but I got very sick. I was basically jet lagged for 4 years until they pulled me into training. I was teaching the hand-to-hand stuff for them out of the LA field office. Because basically I was in Cincinnati, and I had been traveling, training Jiu-Jitsu and grappling and, wrestling, catch wrestling. I was a shoot guy at first, but I couldn't find any good schools. It was really hard. Like I would compete in the Midwest and it'd be easy. I had like 1 year, I'd go in advance and beat everybody with heel hooks. I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was literally beating guys that were so much better than me, but I just knew leg locks and they didn't. And it was weird. I learned all backwards. And then I went out, and I had always heard about Gokor and Gene Lebell, of course. So I said, let me go check this out. And I went out there and I trained with Gok, and I was like, oh my God, this dude is crazy good.
Neil, before you keep going, better or not better? Or better? Better?
That's definitely better than the other way.
This is the Lebell Lock.
That's what I call it.
Yeah, this is the Lebell Lock.
Please go ahead and continue to tell him what it's called, please.
Well, it's not for him, dummy. I'm talking to the other people that don't understand what I'm doing right now.
It's
so
3-finger grip.
The 3-finger grip we called it the Lebell Lock. This is obviously the Gable grip.
Yeah.
I've been telling my guys, said, look, this is a much stronger grip, but it's not very well taught. But this is called the Lebell Lock. I wanted your opinion. You just gave it. Basically, this is definitely way stronger than the Gable.
I know. It depends what I use it for. Like if I do like an underhook shoulder pin, or what guys are calling the shoulder clamp, like I'll do 3-fingered because like if you lock a Gable grip and you try to bring your elbows, like think you're in a 3/4 Nelson, like you're setting up a Darce, and you try to move your elbows past each other, what happens is your grip will come apart. If you go 3-finger, your grip will stay together, and you can actually create a lot of pressure with your form. I'm a big guy. I'm big into leveraging. So I use all leveraging, and I learned that from studying funk wrestlers because they're leverage masters. And I start doing that. But if I'm going to hug somebody, I don't go 3-fingered. I just go Gable or S grip or finger roll grip, whatever you want to call it. But if I'm going to do something like crushing down, like I like to do, like my shoulder pin or Williams guard, I'll go 3-fingered for sure because I can create way more pressure, and it's just hard grip to break. But if I go just Gable, you don't want to hug with that. You want to create downward pressure into the AC joint. So the 3-finger grip allows me to do that. But like I said, if I go heel hook, I'm not going 3-fingered. You could.
You could.
Well, you know what it is I come from the pro wrestling world.
Yeah.
And one of the books that was like not really a requirement, but all we really had back then was Gene Lebell's book of what was it? It was
finishing holds.
It was. I can't remember.
I know it. It's an encyclopedia of finishing holds.
Yes. That was like the one book that everybody that we had. And like that was one of the main things, like that thing, and then everything else. But that book is so. Alex, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
I've seen it. I've never gotten to read it, but I've seen it.
It's awesome because it's real life shit. But coming from the pro
Oleg's
wrestling,
in it. Remember, he had Oleg.
Yes, yeah.
And then he had Gokor, and he had Harut, and Karo and Manny were just babies basically in it, young kids. Yeah.
And his face and everything is like this. Yeah.
So what about your training with Gene? Because you got to train with Gene.
Yeah, Gene's awesome, man. He's like if you guys want a good book, read his book, Godfather or Grappling. It's crazy. Gene's like a maniac.
Yeah.
Like he's a nice guy, but he really is a sadistic bastard, like secretly. He loves choking people out and fucking people up, you know. But Gene was just like, I don't think you could get a tougher guy, honestly. I mean, I got pictures of him wrestling bears for commercials and shit, and he's bleeding all over the place. The guy thing is fucking him up.
Well, he was a stunt man, right? He was a stunt man. He was he was in movies like I guess he was he's basically like he's one of America's treasures that nobody really a lot of people know.
You know
he's
that
American treasure.
Tarantino's last movie,
that Hollywood. Yeah. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
The scene Brad Pitt grabs Bruce Lee and chucks him.
Yeah.
That scene was actually Gene Lebell.
Yeah.
He met Bruce Lee, and everybody was like, Bruce is this badass. And he saw Bruce talking shit. He picks him up and tosses him, and then throws him around, carries him around, just fucking plays with him. And then he said later on they became friends. But like all the submissions in Jeet Kune Do, he learned that from Gene Lebell.
Yeah.
Do you have a story with Gene?
Just some fight moves for Blue Hawaii. Yeah. Gene's done it all, man. He was indicted for murder and found guilty.
That I did not know.
He's awesome. You gotta love him, man. But he was actually a great judoka. I don't know if you know the story of the pink gi. Do you know the real story?
No.
Okay, so this is before judo was in the Olympics, right? So the big national tournament was in Japan, and Gene goes over there. And remember, Gene has bright red hair, right?
Yeah.
And he's a bear of a man, at least especially in his youth, right? So he goes over there and he's doing his laundry, and a red shirt gets mixed in with his whites, right? And the gi turns pink. But Gene, being a fucking gangster, just doesn't give a shit. Goes out, competes in it anyways. And he said when he goes there, everybody's like laughing at him. Here's this red hair giant American in a pink gi in Japan back then, you know, could you imagine? And he goes out there and just crushes it and wins gold. And they used to call him the Radish because, you know, they're like, who's this guy in the pink gi? American just came here and smoked our best guy, you know? Right. And they were just blown away. And then Gene was also trained by the great Luthez, Luthez was the best catch wrestler of his time period. And he trained with a lot of guys, but the one he trained with that I was a fan of was Ed the Strangler Lewis, because Ed Lewis took Luthez to the next level. So I actually have lineage all the way back to the great Ed the Strangler Lewis. Now, Ed Lewis, when he was world champ, when he was catch wrestling, pro wrestling was real.
It was real,
100% real. Now, so they were really going at it, but Luthez was so good that no one could beat him. So people stopped showing up, you know, because boxing was very rigged back then too. So nobody would come. And back then you made your money based off the house take. So Ed Lewis got this great idea of throwing his title. And the other guy didn't even fucking know it. He throws his title and everyone's like, this guy beat Ed Lewis? And then they had an automatic rematch and the seats were packed. And then they were like, yeah, they started making bank. Of course, you know, Ed won his title back, and you know, and then they start playing this game. So they were like, let's have some real matches and let's have some works, and then and the crowds loved the works because you could make it exciting and you could have some drama with it, and then it kind of just got deformed from there, and then goodbye pro wrestling and hello
Sports entertainment.
Yeah.
TV drama.
WWE.
But what's funny is we've talked before because I'm friends with Brian.
Yeah,
Well, I was friends with him back in the day, like 2006, 2007. But now look at this guy, man. And it's funny. It's like the world calls him Daniel, and I'm like, what? What? No, his name's Brian.
Yeah.
But this, he's one of the. Yeah, he's one of the top guys on the planet.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy small world, right?
Married one of the hottest women of all time.
Hey.
No.
Don't talk about the man's wife, bro.
Yeah.
But she's a public figure. It's allowed.
Let me ask you a question now. So I know you've seen the video. There's a video of one of your instructionals that went viral for all the best reasons of you talking about guys getting their oil checked or getting like their nuts yanked back.
Oh, the John Smith quote.
Yeah. With the slow zoom in and Simon and Garfunkel playing. What did you think when you first saw that video?
I was laughing because I didn't. All right, so I'm very friendly with the camera crew, and I joke with them because it's a boring thing. Filming's annoying.
Yeah.
And you just hope your technique doesn't get sloppy because it's tiring. Each DVD takes me about 8 hours of just filming. So because you take breaks and it's just exhausting under the lights, and you get a little silly. And I like telling stories. They just love my stories. I guess I got crazy stories compared to theirs, I guess. And I start telling a story about a John Smith quote. Because I'm a butt dragger because I'm a wrestler. I like wrestling, and butt dragging it's a part of wrestling. It's not everything. It's just a little part. I use it to keep the weight on the hands so I can get in position and take the back or set up stuff, and then I'm just telling the story, and I'm mainly trying to just make the cameraman laugh a little bit, and he was, but I'm just joking around. I really didn't think it would go in the film. I thought it would it'd get edited out. And so I'm telling this story, and I'm just being myself. I like to joke, and I had no idea it would. I feel bad for the guy that was the training partner. He's a real good grappler, and he was the nicest guy. And I was filming a guillotine video, I think. Yeah, to be a training partner for that video sucked for him, because he was getting guillotines are the worst to get drilled on, Yeah. And I just felt so bad. I was trying to protect him. He was such a good dude. And then I was thinking this video comes out, and I had no idea. He was thinking I was going to shove my hand up his ass. That was poor bastard. I was like, man, but it was.
Yeah. You can see it going in his head. He was going, what did I sign up for? What's about to happen?
Wait till my Cradle DVD comes out because I was in rare form for that DVD. I was telling stories about my grandfather cutting the fingers off Japanese soldiers during the Second World War. Like I'm just goofing hard. The DVD came out great, but I kept telling my training partner, I'm like, keep your shit together, man. Like, let's just get this done. But I couldn't help but have fun because the guys that were helping me filming and the dummy there, right. They were really cool guys. They're funny, and they just make me, we just have a good time. We try to make the best of it.
That's awesome. And by the way, everybody, I would highly suggest picking up some of Neil's DVDs at BJJ Fanatics. The catch wrestling one is actually one of my favorites. That's one of those things that I've gotten more and more into. Like the deeper I get into grappling and understanding catch wrestling and really trying to apply as much as I can, like in jiu-jitsu. Do you feel that you're like one of the remaining lights for like catch wrestling? Like I feel like it doesn't get as much attention as it needs.
Well, I mean, that's not my battle. I think people would put me in that category a lot, and I like catch wrestling. I had a definitely influence on me, but I was a highest stand grappler. We did catch wrestling concepts. We did jiu-jitsu concepts. They were great judo guys. So on my ground game, I do a lot of judo techniques, a ton.
Yeah.
And it was really bizarre when I started working with a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, like high-level guys from Brazil. They were like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's just judo. It's just judo techniques. And they were like, man, because they look at judo differently, And I was like, man, have you ever gone with a guy that's world-level judo? They're like, oh no. I'm like, God, their top game is sick. Like, they're Olympic level judo is like crazy good, you know. These guys are like, you got to give respect to them. And like my buddy Justin Flores is a damn ninja. He's the guy that, he's a freaking ninja, but he also wrestled too. But I'm a big fan of judo, so plus it's a world sport, and so I'm a mix of all of that. So I'm a highest end guy, but catch wrestling's part of it. I like the history of catch wrestling, and I'm pro American history. I'm a big history buff, so I like catch wrestling because it's a big American. It was a big American sport, and our grappling and wrestling goes very far back. George Washington was a rough and tumble fighter. Lincoln was a wrestling champion and a rough and tumble champion. He broke a guy's neck, and then he had to defend himself in court. But we have that in our roots that go way back. Yeah. Because we were always brutish. Americans always been dogs. And then the English brought their form of catch wrestling over. We learned it, but we kept our rough, nasty style of, mean, gritty farm boy life, and we introduced that into catch wrestling and made it really more dark and twisted than what the Brits would do. So because that's the American way back then, we were trying to build a country. Life was different back then. And my grandfather said that he ate meat maybe once a month, and it was probably cat. So it was a lot different living back in the 20s, for a lot of people. Anyhow, so I'm not pushing, like Jake Shannon pushes catch wrestling big. It's very important to him. He was a big wrestling buff too. Billy Robinson was a legendary catch guy.
Want some lunch?
But for me, I like to talk about catch wrestling, but a lot of problems I have with catch wrestlers is they speak bad about jiu-jitsu, and I think that's a big mistake. Because if you're not studying jiu-jitsu, you're doing something wrong. You can't just study catch wrestling, in my opinion. Because catch wrestling guys didn't play the bottom like they do today. The sport, when you change the rules, you change the sport. I mean, if you want to do jiu-jitsu, but we focus mainly on takedowns and limited time on the ground, you have judo, basically. So the rules make the sport. So nowadays, the rules are different. So if you're going to do, like Jake actually does traditional catch matches with pins and the whole deal, and that's his push. I think it's great. I want to keep that. I think catch wrestling should stay alive, just like traditional jiu-jitsu should stay alive. There's all types of styles of jiu-jitsu these days.
You're all about the evolution.
Yeah, I think Gracie Baja changed a lot about jiu-jitsu, and for the good and the bad. It depends how you look at it, but that's just my opinion.
All right.
But I'm a highest end guy. I preach highest stand. I like catch wrestling. I like jiu-jitsu. I love judo. I love those things. And I try to train it all. I love wrestling, especially folk style. I fucking love folk style wrestling. I'm a big wrestling buff. I've learned so much from wrestlers. And what I don't like is a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, not all of them, obviously. A lot of them don't recognize wrestling as grappling. And I just think that's a horrible mistake. Because you get why is it guys like Phil Davis with hardly any experience in jiu-jitsu can go in and just torch guys in grappling?
It's one of the four pillars of fighting. There's four, and as far as I'm concerned, there's four pillars. It's wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, and at least jiu-jitsu as far as ground attacks or of some kind. Or grappling, I guess, no-gi grappling. Right. But wrestling, you have to figure out how to get somebody to the ground. If you can't get somebody to the ground.
I mean, it worked for Ben Askren for so long.
Well, that's the thing. Like Ben was a funk guy. So he was a great guy at leverage. He was a great guy at give to get. He was a great grappler. I mean, I watched him grapple one time with a dude, and he was doing some weird-ass shit, but it was awesome. Yeah. It was just awesome. But he had his principles, I keep my hips above his head or whatever he was doing. And those principles are interesting. And if you're not studying those principles to get a different view, you can't win everything off your back. You can't always look for sweeps. Sometimes the answer is to get up and snap. If that's what I'm saying. If you want to be a master grappler, if you want to be a master jiu-jitsu guy, it's its own sport. BJJ, then you're set. BJJ has its own thing. But if you want to be a master grappler, you better know how to do wrestling. You better know how to do Greco. You better know how to do grappling on the ground. You better know the Jiu-Jitsu side of the house. You better know some of the wrestling side of the house, because there's so many elements that reach grappling. I posted a photo the other day that I think I saw someone else post, and I just reposted it, of ancient Greece sewing a centaur doing a heel hook. Yeah. So like our stuff has been around forever. We're just rediscovering it, and we're forming it in a new light because things have changed since back then. But this is nothing new. Grappling's been around forever. So I would always recommend guys, like, a lot of people don't want to do wrestling because it's very hard. It's very tiring, very taxing. It requires some athletics. It's a very tough sport. But I've taken so much from wrestling and adapted it to my ground game. It's insane. But, you know, like even simple things like head pummeling. I teach this to black belts, and they're just blown away. I'm like, you spend a day with a wrestler, you're going to learn this. You know, some of my arm drags and some of the way I do stuff, they're just totally bizarre. Train with a Greco guy. They can master this stuff. They're sick with this stuff. You know, I do front headlocks different than most people because I train with those guys and I saw all the options. You know, it's crazy. There's so much you can learn once you step out of that box. But if you're in the wrestling world and you want to learn all of grappling, you got to go into a jiu-jitsu gym too. You got to learn those elements. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, you're a master when you die, you know. It takes that long. I mean, the game is always so exciting, you know. It's an exciting game. It's always adapting.
Well, so I know we're running short on time, but yeah. I got one last question that I need to know before I do the closeout question. This isn't
two questions.
I have two last questions. My first one: how the hell do you talk people into growing a friggin' mustache around you? Everybody I know has that filthy mustache. I still see Nick once in a while.
Patrick used to have one. He kept it.
Well, Pat Cummings started it, I think, and we, because I had my own little team of guys, I still do, called the Filthy Few, and that we were all just kind of maniacs, you know, and just being crazy, you know, like old school men back in the day with strong mustaches that, you know, or I feel like today men are they're like, it's weird. Like, I just, you know, I think about Teddy Roosevelt a lot. And if he looked at this generation, he would be like, we lost. You know, like what happened to the old gritty men? There's still some out there, but it just kind of, there's a lot now that are just very sensitive. And I mean, I remember, I don't know, I'm an ex-military guy. I'm an Irish kid. I'm from the Northeast, Boston area, and I was in the Navy. So I'm very gritty on a lot of the way I talk and how I am, and I have to work on it a lot because some people don't like it. Because, like, to me, certain things don't offend me. Like, if I see you doing a technique and you're overthinking it, I don't want to say just you're overthinking it. I'll say, yeah, you're just skull fucking it a little bit. But, like, I'm saying that to kind of, like, because I'm correcting you, but I'm trying to make you laugh a little bit too, you know, like it's not a big deal. Like I've had guys like, dude, don't talk to me that way. And I'm
Shut up. Really?
Dude, it's like, man, all right. I thought we were just a couple guys being dudes, but I guess not. I'll talk to you like I'm talking to a lady. I got to be super correct, you know, and I just don't like it. I'm old school. And yeah, I'm just maybe too old school. I don't know.
You just inspired me. I'm gonna adopt when my guys are.
Fucking it.
No. I'm gonna adopt something from Teddy Roosevelt. When my guys are hurt and they think they're gassed, they think they got nothing more. I'm just gonna tell them, hey, Teddy Roosevelt finished the speech. You finished the speech.
Listen, I just say toughen up, Buttercup.
Do you know that story? Wait, Alex, do you know that story about Teddy?
What?
Well, I mean, I know a lot about Teddy. I mean, he fucking was boxing when he was a president. Then he became a judo black belt. But it was so funny is he actually called the World War II generation before the war. He was very concerned because he said they're too soft. And we call that generation our greatest generation. Yeah. So Teddy was must have been hard, motherfucker.
Well, you know? Teddy was doing a speech. He got shot. And he finished the friggin' speech.
Yeah.
Listen, but you also need to understand, bullets back then are a little different than bullets now. So I'll give credit where credit is due.
Don't take that away from Teddy, man.
Yeah. Not only that,
if you got shot back then, you would step off the fucking stage.
He finished the fucking speech. He sat up there and he finished his speech. That's what I'm talking about. That's American grit right there.
That's what I call filth, man. I call filth. It means American grit in my own twisted way.
Right. I dig
pretty much it. Actually, Shawn, I actually have a guy that I want to talk to you because he's built kind of like you. And I remember when I was in Florida, I watched your style. You had adapted your style to your body type on grappling very, very well. And I talked to him about you. And then since you contacted me, I'm like, hey, that guy I was telling you about that you can model your grappling game after, he just contacted me. Would it be cool if I had him call you just to get some tips?
Of course.
All right, great. Yeah, he's built almost just like you. Great kid. And he's actually a Iraq war veteran too. So you'll like him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's dope. What's your last question, Shawn?
My last question is the same one we've been doing. Neil, we've all been in quarantine. That means a lot of people have been watching a lot of shows on Netflix, Prime, all this stuff. What are the top 3 you've been watching?
You know, I watched a little documentary today on Netflix that had me rolling laughing called Operation Odessa. And these guys are characters, but just one dude, Tony, he's a gangster from Colombia. He was hilarious, man. Yeah, he was so gangster, man. I was crying. I have Taiwan, Claxton, and AJ Matthews staying with me right now. We were in tears. But it's not meant to be funny. It's just these guys are not. But as far as shows, I don't know, man. I put down some HBO ones that I thought were good, but that's just standing out right now. That's really standing out.
You didn't watch Tiger King like everybody else?
I know. I don't see what the rave was. I thought the guy was outrageous. The thing, but here I am watching this fucking idiot abusing tigers, and he is a psycho. And he's a character, yeah, and he's funny because he's a character. But I don't think he's a guy worth remembering, you know? I don't think he's a good dude. No. And I kind of felt like it was kind of hard to find people to like in the documentary. I'm like,
no, there wasn't.
Everybody loves a good shit show.
A documentary about these guys. I don't give a fuck what happens to them, you know?
Yeah, none of them have any redeeming qualities at all. But what we learned is if you got a little bit of meth and some tigers, you can turn straight guys gay.
Come here.
So
that's right. That was bizarre. What the hell are you doing?
He is taken straight out of the playbook from Iceberg Slim. That's all he's doing. He was playing the Iceberg Slim rules on all these guys.
I'm just happy I know what to look for.
2 weeks later, he marries again.
Yeah.
What a character. He's a character, man. That's
pimping.
Some reporter asked Trump if he would pardon him.
Yeah. He's like, I'll look into it.
Yeah, he had no idea who he was talking about.
He had no idea. What the hell are you talking about?
That guy's dealing with the coronavirus and the economy crash, and you ask him about the damn Tiger King.
No, that guy should never be allowed back in the White House. Ever.
See, at that point, wouldn't you think someone comes up and be like, you might want to skip this one. Good next question. Question.
Talk about something relevant.
Yeah. No. See, so for me, Shawn, it's only like the last week now, it's been just the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm a big Clint Eastwood fan, so it's just watching the Man with No Name series over and over, man.
Dude, High Plains Drifter, one of my favorites.
Yeah. Most people don't even get it that he's a ghost.
I even watched Dirty Harry. Dirty Harry's on Netflix right now. I was like, dude, the worst part is that movie's in the beginning, he gets shot in the leg and he doesn't even limp. He gets shot in the leg and he just walks. The cars are everywhere. The fire hydrant's going everywhere. He gets shot in the leg. He just walks up to the guy and asks him if he feels lucky.
Some of his suits look so ridiculous. You know, 'cause back in the day, the big tie and everything. I'm like, man, it's not intimidating at all.
But he had the wraparound glasses. He looked rad with those wraparound.
We get like the outlaw Josie Wales, and he's like walking around with the little kerchief. Like we can kill the kerchief, boss. Like we could just keep going here.
He was great in so many movies, man.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, Gran Torino. He was the grittiest old. I was like, man, that's gonna be me one day.
Just pissing off the neighbors with an awesome car.
Yeah, just being a prick to everyone.
And he still goes out like a total fucking badass.
Oh man, carrying a wrench with him around
Oh, shit.
in a 1911, just for the hell of it.
Just a can. All right,
Yeah,
Coach.
awesome.
Thank you very much for doing this. Listen, anytime you want to come on, I'd love to have you. I know I got like a million other questions that I'd love to ask you. But you got shit to do.
No, I had fun, man. This was great. I love chatting with you guys.
Yeah.
Good seeing you, man.
No,
Been
you
too long.
too. I'll try and find some of the old footage I have and shoot it your way. I know I got some good shots of you and stuff.
I appreciate that. And hopefully I'll be out in Florida sometime when this is all over. Come to Vegas. We can all get filthy, you know?
I'm down. I'm down for a Vegas trip. I need one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to get a hold of you or check out all your stuff, they can find you at Neil Melanson MMA and Instagram. You got a website. If they want to buy the DVDs, BJJ Fanatics, where else can they get a hold of you?
Well, my website's going to get redone. That thing is old. It's so old it could vote, honestly. But I'm going to have it rebuilt this year. I got plans this year to start teaching through my website. So what I want to do is do private lessons, because I have a lot of people internationally that want to work with me, but they can't. So I can do privates via online. And then what I want to do is offer a thing where you send me footage of your grappling and your body type. And what I'll do is I'll develop a grappling system for you based on your natural attributes, your body type, your background, and what I think you would be good at and stuff like that. And then form a system and sequences for you to drill. And that will be a service I want to provide. And I'll be selling T-shirts and stuff like that. And but my triangle book is still available. It's still selling.
Yeah.
So Mastering Triangle Chokes on Amazon. And BJJ Fanatics, my K-Guard DVD is sick. Or you can just buy the download even cheaper. And then my Cradle of Filth DVD will be out shortly, I think.
That's awesome. So
that one will be hilarious. You guys will have some funny bits.
That's on the to get list for sure. Coach, thank you again for doing this. Looking forward to the new DVD, all the other stuff, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon in person.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was great seeing you guys. Great talking with you.
You too. Take care.
All right. Stay filthy.
That's it, folks. As you can see, Coach Neil is an awesome guy. He's freaking hilarious.
The best.
Thanks so much for doing this. Like I said, I've been a fan of his ever since I first met him at the Black Zillions, and I've always kind of been just looking from the outskirts and love all the work he does. If you want to check out some of his stuff, please go check out his Instagram. Go check out his DVDs. I promise you, you are not going to regret it. You are going to really enjoy every single piece of knowledge he shoots out there. I'll throw in a couple of highlights too. I think we should throw in a couple of the highlights of his stuff on the Instagram, so you guys kind of really get an idea of how sick of a grappler this man truly is. Don't forget to support the podcast by subscribing, and don't forget to support the podcast by supporting our sponsors. Check out Choke Aloha, Jiu-Jitsu Soap Co., Giraffe Choke. All their links are down below in the video. If you're listening to the podcast on iTunes, you can find it on the website as well. Check out jiujitsuradio.com. As always, you can get a load of this guy at Gorilla Boy BJJ on Instagram. You can follow me at Sonder Marketing on Instagram. With that being said, thank you very much for all your support. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
You kidding me, Bob?
Here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff.
Get stealing, woo, wheeling, dealing, limousine right, jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down.